Des Moines and all of Central Iowa, welcome to Mac's World Live. Mac's World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Mac's World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Mac's World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
6 minutes after 4 o'clock, 4:06 in the afternoon on this 7th day of March in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and we sure do appreciate you coming by this afternoon and spending some time with us. We are live here on The Truth, which is 99.3, and my special guest today is a woman who knows a lot about what Terry Branstad's talking about. The governor said this morning that he absolutely will not allow a Senate bill called the Death with Dignity bill passed through the House. He said that bill is dead for this session and had no further comment. The young lady that's on my radio program today is Iris Eng, E-N-G. She is an would I call you a pro-life advocate?
Yes.
Okay, pro-life advocate, and you're with a family leader.
Yes.
And you also have spent part of your career as a hospice nurse.
Yes.
And as a traveling nurse to all kinds of fun and exciting places.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Well, welcome, Iris. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
515-244-0077. That's the number you can call. We're taking a poll. You okay with the Death with Dignity bill? I mean, I know I'm talking to a Christian audience, but still. Are you okay if a pharmaceutical company can prescribe to you, or a pharmacy can prescribe to you, a cocktail of lethal medicines? Excuse me. 20 to 30 minutes later, you're dead or in a doorknob. It was your choice. You didn't lay there for months and years suffering with inoperable cancer or tumors or brain cancer, putting your family through that. The latest headline on that, of course, was David Hurd, former Principal CEO. He buried 2 wives and saw one of them suffer horribly and said, I'm not going to do that to my 3rd wife. And about a month ago, he jumped off the Plaza condominiums in downtown Des Moines to his death. 35 floors will do that for you. And he had written a letter, and he had told his friends that why can't we have a Death with Dignity bill? And my question to you is it okay with you? 515-244-0077, or you can also text us at the Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993. So, Iris, pro or against?
I am definitely against the physician-assisted suicide.
Which would be the Death with Dignity.
That's correct.
Okay. Am I not reading something in between that, though? Or are you okay with something that would help a dying, ailing person with a crippling disease, help them pass away, or is that the same thing?
No, I am not. I think that you can use life support things to that measure, but as far as the physician-assisted suicide, I am not okay with that.
Now, I was having a radio show one time many years ago, and I had just watched a friend of mine go through hospice. Well, I had watched a friend of mine go through a horrible cancer and just did nothing but suffer. And his wife could just no longer handle it, so they sent him to hospice, and in like 72 hours, he was gone.
Well, I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that 95% of all pain can be controlled.
95% of all pain can be controlled.
95% of all pain can be controlled.
Okay.
So for that reason, and from what I've witnessed as a hospice nurse, There's absolutely no way that I could be for death with dignity. I consider death with dignity living your life to the fullest and not dying until death actually occurs.
What about life-saving measures like a lung machine or something that keeps your heart beating or something that? And if the machine wasn't on, you'd die.
I think that there comes a difference between chemicals and between machines.
Okay.
And I have a...
Yeah, the machine is keeping you alive. The chemicals will kill you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I can see turning off machines to a point. If a person has been in bed, not doing well, and they are continuing to be even sicker to the point of dying, and they are on a machine of this sort, and they've been on it for quite some time, if the family is okay with it, because the family is also part of this situation. It's not just the dying person. If the family's okay with it, then I see no issues with taking the machines off, because at that point you're leaving it in God's hands. When you take a chemical, you're actually making a absolute decision to exit the world. No questions asked.
Iris Ng is my guest today. She's a pro-life advocate with a family leader. The governor this morning, Governor Branstad, said he will not support under any circumstances a death with dignity bill. Dignity bill. Hot diggity dog. I want to hear your voice on this. 515-244-0077. What are you thinking? Would you support a death with dignity bill, Bob?
Text came through here. Should we fight to remove DNR from healthcare? Didn't God give knowledge to doctors to help people?
Should we fight to remove what?
Do not resuscitate.
Oh,
DNR.
DNRs. Okay. Well, I know that my wife is very much against a living will after what happened with her mother. She has changed all of our medical information, I guess, records.
A do not resuscitate simply means that we're not going to beat on your chest if you're already dead. Because if you are dead, unless you're a young person or an emergency has happened, such as an accident, chances are we aren't going to be able to bring you back.
Heart attack, stroke, something like that.
Exactly. Right. There is exception. But if you have chronic issues and you are dying anyway, terminal issues, then I think a DNR is very much in place.
Okay. Iris, I've heard, if you're willing to share with us, I've heard some amazing stories that people have told as they are with someone who, I call it passes over. I don't call it passed on. I say passed over because they're going someplace new. Hopefully it's a place of their choice. You have any stories like that you can share with us?
I have so many that I could write a book on it.
You should. You should.
I may consider that someday.
Yeah.
I do have several.
Yeah.
And that's definitely part of why I am against anything that terminates the natural death. Not to be cruel. And, I was listening to some things earlier, and one thing I realized is I have definitely been influenced by the medical world, obviously, because I'm a nurse, even though I am no longer able to nurse. I was injured back in 2005, and I myself went through chronic pain. Now, I will get to these stories, I promise, but I will tell you a little bit about my story first.
Please do.
I was injured to the point that I could not walk by myself. I needed crutches to walk, and I continued doing light duty at this time. It was very difficult on me. I was in a world of pain, and anyone who does not understand what chronic pain, anyone that's not been there, really can't begin to fathom how difficult it is to be in chronic pain. It's a 24/7, non-relentless. It is like being lost in your worst nightmare if it is not relieved. In my situation, because mine was brand new, mine couldn't be relieved instantly because every pain medication I would take, I would just throw back up.
Okay.
Literally. Some of the things that got me through were acupuncture, massage.
Yes, acupuncture. I'm a big fan of acupuncture.
Me too. Massage. And actually, the only drug I could use and not throw back up was alcohol. And I actually scared myself because I realized I was getting to the point of being close to being an alcoholic myself. And having been a travel nurse in Alaska and up on the tundra of Alaska in a place called Kotzebue, when they first asked me if I wanted to go to Kotzebue, I said, who?
Yeah, that's what I would have said.
It's just as a place of reference.
But you also saw a lot of alcoholism
absolutely,
with the Eskimos.
That's what I'm getting to there. Because where Kotzebue is, it's above Nome, and it's below Barrow, Alaska, which is the very top part of Alaska, to give you a reference point. And there is a huge amount of alcoholism. And I was very concerned that I was going to become an alcoholic, just as I had seen. So I really didn't know what I was going to do, and I just did the best I could. Finally, I had a vision, and this vision was of a rock. And on this rock was dripping water. It was like if you put a rock under a faucet and you had water dripping on it. And I wasn't really sure what that meant, but I thought about it, and then I realized that the rock represented my will, because I have a very strong will. And that water represented the pain, and it was wearing me out, literally. I called my pain pathologist and asked her, or physiologist, and asked her what she thought, and she said, what I think is you need to get all of your sources together. You need help, and we're going to all work together to help you.
Frank?
There was an old saying I saw on a poster one time talking about perseverance, the rock and the stream. Which one wins? Usually the water, the stream wins. Absolutely. Because eventually the rock can't stand any longer. So what won in your case?
Well, in my case, it was the rock, but it was really tough in the beginning, I'll tell you.
All right, our special guest today is Iris Ng. She is a pro-life advocate with a family leader. She is a hospice nurse and has traveled all over the world dealing with people's pain and end-of-life issues. We'll talk to her when we come back. 244-0077. Do you want a Death with Dignity bill in Iowa? I want to hear your voice.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
21 minutes after 4:21, 7th day of March in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Welcome to my special guest today, Iris Ng. Iris is a pro-life advocate with a family leader. Many years as a hospice nurse and a traveling nurse to all kinds of places. And I want to go to the phones because the question I'm asking you is this. Are you pro or against the Death with Dignity bill? Terry Branstad came out today and basically said there's no way under my administration the Death with Dignity law will be anything that will pass. And then he was done commenting on it. But there are several Democrats who believe that the Death with Dignity legislation is significant because it's a very important part of the process of life. That's what people are saying. And it's your voice I want to hear, 515-244-0077. You can also text us at the Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993. Let's go to Rhonda. Rhonda, you're live in Max World. How you doing, Rhonda?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. So are you pro or against the Death with Dignity bill?
Absolutely against it.
Okay. Tell me why.
I'm off the charts 100% pro-life advocate.
All right.
And the reason I feel that this is a bill that is like the guy that was speaking earlier, I'm sorry I didn't get his name, but he was talking about this being a slippery slope, and it certainly is. But it is as human beings, and we are made in the image of God, and whether you believe in God or not is immaterial. We have a dignity that's higher than animals. And as Wesley Smith had commented in a speech that I had gone to see, he's written A Brave New World and a few other things. He said, as human beings, we are to alleviate suffering, not eliminate it. And the hospice nurse there put it very succinctly when she said, we can eliminate about 95% of pain. So we are alleviating suffering. And it's not within our realm to eliminate it. We are not animals to be put down like animals.
I always hear the argument, Rhonda, that you take away God's mercy and grace to heal us. Mm-hmm. And right. We don't know at what point we're going to wake up. We're going to all of a sudden the cancer is going to be gone. The brain tumor will shrink and it'll be gone. We have to give God the time to do what God does.
Well, we had a gentleman stand up in our church yesterday and talk about how he had brain surgery, and the tumor that he had, they went in to get it, and it was mostly they couldn't believe how it had shrunk, and and so he'd been prayed over, and of course we see miracles like that all the time. But the scary thing that's coming about now, and this went back with the Terry Schiavo debacle, was food and water is now considered life-keeping,
life support.
Life support, yes. And in fact, when I went to the lawyer with my mother to get a living will and whatever, that was actually in there to withhold water and food. And I said, absolutely not. That is to be stricken out of that because I will not, have my mother taken off of considered life support. I will not have her suffer, starvation or dehydration, as Terry Schiavo had to do. And of course, that brought up all sorts of questions with the attorney. And he said that his mother was elderly and that they had withheld water. And I said, well, you get to a certain point, and I'm sure the hospice nurse can tell you this, that they start refusing that themselves. They get to a point where the body just starts breaking down. Now, I'm certainly not a hospice nurse, no expert on that, but to just deliberately withhold it, particularly from people like Terry Schiavo that was not dying. She was disabled, absolutely, but she was not dying. And of course, the whole media circus that went around that was, just let the poor woman die.
Yeah.
Well, we all know how that turned out.
Rhonda, I appreciate you listening to our radio station. Thank you very much. Blessings to you. And thank you most of all for just lending your voice to this very, very important conversation.
Well, thank you for having this topic on. I think it's very important that people pay attention because it's going to come under the radar if we don't pay attention and see what our legislators are trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Rhonda,
all right, well, God bless you, too.
God bless you. Thank you very much. All right, let's go to 271 where Lisa is on the phone. Lisa, you're live in Mac's World. Yay or nay to death with dignity?
Nay.
Nay?
No, at 15, I watched my mother die a horrible, excruciating death, and it was horrible. I became a nurse, and I have chronic pain myself, and I know what that's like to get so desperate. But I think this is an offshoot of two problems that we have, is people not being able to get health care and people not being able to get pain relief because of a lot of the legislation that they've made because of the drug problem. And that's what's really hard, because you want to keep the drugs away from the people that are misusing them, but you want to give them to the people that need them.
Yeah, and we're not doing a very good job of that. We've witnessed that in the Iowa legislature over the last 2 years over the cannabis law.
Right, and I understand why. I mean, I'm not a fan of cannabis myself, but I kind of understand because people are desperate.
Yeah, absolutely. Their children are suffering and dying, and they think they have this drug that could serve them and help them, and the government won't give it to them. Frank?
Well, here's a question I have for anybody that wants to tackle it. A lot of people who might have been hurt and injured in the Civil War and our progressive wars up until now, we're saving people currently that wouldn't even have had a chance during the Civil War. And I'm just wondering if all this life-giving capability of life support that we have, that our ability to save people is far outreaching our ability to discern whether they ought to be kept alive to start with.
You are absolutely right. I'm a geriatric nurse and have been for 23 years. And I have told my children, and my daughter is studying nursing and she's a CNA and she's seen a lot of stuff. And both of us, I've threatened them. I said, do not use extraordinary measures with me. Do not put a feeding tube in me. If I'm starting to refuse to eat or if I can't swallow, don't do it.
Well, Lisa, thank you for taking the time to call in. I think we have a lot of fun on this show sometimes with some goofy topics, but this is one that's serious. And
have a great day.
You lending your voice to it has been wonderful. Thank you very much, Lisa. All right, 515-244-0077. That's the number you can call if you want to get in on the radio. Are you pro or against the Death with Dignity bill? Our special guest today is Iris Ng. She is a political advocate, a pro-life advocate for the family leader, and has spent many years as a hospice nurse and nurses in other areas. And I think it's interesting that you said 95% of our pain we can medicate.
Mm-hmm. 95% of pain can normally be controlled. I'd like to address a little bit more of the question that was asked, too, in the regard that I was a VA nurse when I was injured. And it is very true that our soldiers are surviving a lot more than what they would have. I do think that a lot of that is what's being done in the battlefield, and what's really helping there, I think, is there's a big emphasis on pain management there. And we are being able to cope with pain better than we could for many, many years. So even though there's really bad injuries, there's good coming out of it too, I can say. So, but yes, it is kind of traumatic in how far we are extending ourselves and not letting death take its toll naturally, I would say. Yeah. I agree with that, too. Okay, back to when I was injured. We all know that I was injured very severely. I live with chronic pain, and I got to a point where I wanted to die. My doctor asked me if I was suicidal. I said, no, but I'm as close as I can be without being suicidal. And I said, if someone offered me a free ticket, I would be more than glad to take it and get out of here. And I really felt that way because I was hurting so much, because I was living with it 24/7. And at that point in time, we were able to get my pain under control better. And then I had surgery, and that relieved me for a year. Then what happened was scar tissue grew back. And at that point, the pain returned because it was pushing on my nerves. And so at that point, they put a stimulator in. Now, had I chosen and actually gone through with killing myself, as so many have with chronic pain, there are so many things I would have missed. I'm really glad I lived.
Well, let me ask this, because a lot of the problem with chronic pain is prescription drugs.
Absolutely.
And the abuse of prescription drugs.
Absolutely.
So I've watched a number of shows, the Dr. Drew Rehab, where Jeff Conway, the guy, the co-actor in the movie Grease with Olivia Newton-John, John Travolta. He had a number of back surgeries. There was nothing, any more back surgeries was going to help him, but he wanted to go back and have another back surgery, hoping that would help. And Dr. Drew ended up just having to tell him point blank, I've talked to your doctor, that surgery's not going to help you. All it's going to do is end up putting you back on a prescription drug that we're trying to get you off of. And he ended up, he's deceased now because he just wouldn't quit the drugs. Jeff Conway. So my point is how do you address that issue when there's when you deal with this chronic pain and then there's end up being a danger of abusing drugs?
One thing I would say is never ever give up. I used to have a picture of a crane with a frog that was in its mouth, and the frog had a hold of this crane's neck, and it was choking it, and it was hanging on for dear life. And that's how I felt at that time that time frame. I would say with the prescription medications, there needs to be a way that we can track the prescription medications better than we are able to right now. And I think that would help a lot. But we do have a lot of illegal street drugs. People that really are wanting medications for pain are given prescriptions, but I don't know that those prescriptions are always followed through with. And are there people that would get prescriptions and sell them illegally? To me, it seems like that would be a lot of trouble, because there's other ways to get medications on the street.
Iris Ing is our guest today. That's right, Iris, I-R-I-S, last name Ing, E-N-G. She is a pro-life advocate with the Family Leader. She has spent many years as a hospice nurse and also as a traveling nurse, and she's going to share in the next segment some of those stories that she had and with people who died and what happened to them while they were dying. If you've ever been around someone at the time of their death, sometimes it's ugly and it's choking or breathing heavily and then quitting and the chest is up and the chest is down and the eyes roll back. Sometimes God is just all over it. And you just see him lifting that spirit out of this body, this now beat and broken body. And he lifts that spirit up. And sometimes it is so evident the way he reveals himself to us in those moments. So I look forward to hearing some of those stories.
I definitely agree with that. I would say that our physical is decreased, of course, when we're dying. Sometimes our intellectual is decreased. However, what I have noticed is the emotions are increased. People who were not able to express their feelings before often are able to do so. Yeah. They're more open. Yeah. Love is a big commandment in the Bible. And I see a lot of love at the end of life. I knew one guy that was dying. He was an engineer. I'll call him Don. He had never been a Christian in his entire life. He became a Christian just before his terminal illness. And when he was dying, he was able to tell his wife how much he loved her. Now, this was during the dying process, right at the end.
What an interesting
And his
story.
Children came back and said to me that he was never able to do that before. He told her things that she should have heard for years.
Iris Ing is our guest. She's the pro-life advocate with the Family Leader. We're coming back next live.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager. Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put a 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
.438, 22 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio News at the top of the hour. And then Hank, the Bible Answer Man, 1-888 Ask Hank, a nationwide, around the world, live show right here on 99.3. You can call up and ask Hank any question you want about the Bible. He's usually pretty right. Mostly right. Not always right. Frank gets him every once in a while.
If you change the H to an FR, it could be Ask Frank.
We should do that. We should ask Frank, the Bible Answer Man. All right, Iris Ng is my guest today. She is a pro-life advocate with the Family Leader. We are taking your phone calls at 515-244-0077. Governor Branstad said this morning that the Death with Dignity law is done. The bill is dead in this session, quote unquote. Do you think we need a Death with Dignity bill? That's a bill where a doctor would prescribe, knowing your situation, your medical situation, that it was hopeless. Only a miracle could save you now. The future is pain, discomfort, agony, hurt. So much hurt for your family members. And the doctor can just give you this 3-medicine cocktail. In 30 minutes, 40 minutes later, you just pass on into the Lord's hands. Would you be okay with that bill in Iowa? 515-244-0077. That's the number to call. Frank?
One argument in this that I've heard is that it's not so much about the pain we're suffering, but the softening or potential hardening of the people who's seeing it and viewing it. And God can use someone suffering to witness to another person to soften their heart. And we don't know any of that when we're going through the pain and the suffering. We don't know who God's affecting and who he's not affecting. So that's one thing that needs to be taken into consideration into this.
Iris Ng is our guest today. She's a pro-life advocate with a family leader, a hospice nurse. Share with me a couple stories about what you witnessed.
Another woman that I witnessed dying, and very sadly so, of course, was a young woman who had to leave her children behind. Of course, some of this is difficult to talk about, and Janie was a very special person. I'll call her Janie. She was very in love with her children, of course, and she had been a teacher. So in her last days, she chose to write letters to her children and to buy each one a special gift. And that's what she spent her time doing up until the final day. There's a great book out, by the way, called Final Gifts. I want to get that plug in for it. If you want to know more about some of these histories, read that book. There's another great one out that a French psychologist, I believe, wrote. She saw the French president die. She worked with him as he died. It is called Intimate Death. I wanted to make sure and mention those two titles. Okay, back to some of the other stories that I've seen. One of the young men that I could think of right off was a person who had been very rebellious in life, but he had lived the life he wanted to, and he was 20-something. He told me that he was
20-something?
20-something.
Okay.
He told me that he had lived more in his 20 years, and some people live in their 90 years. He had felt that he lived a full life, and he was very hateful during his last days. He had a disease that others could easily catch. He would do things like spit into the ice machine at the hospital.
Oh, yuck.
Yeah. He was just not a nice person overall, but I made friends with him. He shook my hand and he said, "I'm your friend." And so I always asked for him. Well, we got a minister in there, and the minister started working with him. This man turned around. He was sent to the nearby rehabilitation home, and at that home, he chose to plant flowers, to do things for the older folks. He said, "I have to take care of the older folks. Someone needs to do that." And his heart was so genuinely changed. But had he not had that last time frame, it might not have been so. When he died very peacefully, and it was totally opposite of what he had been like when he was in the hospital before. There's so many that I could think of to mention. I also want to mention that when someone dies, our outward man perishes. This is a scripture in the Bible, by the way. It's from 2 Corinthians, I believe it's 4:16. And it is, "Though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day." And that is so true, because what you will see when someone is dying, if you're watching and paying attention, and you're giving them the compassion that they need, if someplace they're getting that compassion, whether it be from a family member, hopefully medical people, what you will see is, as I mentioned, the outward man is starting to diminish. The strength of the person is diminishing. But their spirituality, their essence of who they are, can be seen as never before. There is a special essence of that being that comes forward. It's as if they are trying almost to give birth to themselves, so that you really understand who they were during this time frame. You can't commit suicide and get these same type of endings.
Now, how do you know that?
Because I have seen people who have committed suicide as well, and most of them are miserable endings.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing is, most people don't really want to die. What they do want to do is get rid of the suffering.
Yeah, they want to get rid of the pain and the suffering,
Exactly.
and they want to stop hurting other people.
And if you can stop that, then that is major. One thing I'll tell you on a teleconference that I was at also really quickly is that Cokie, is that her name?
Cokie Roberts?
Yes, she was talking. She had done some research, and she said that the most painful death for those who are left behind is the quick death. And I know this personally. And most painful death for the individual that is dying is the one that is lingering. So you're not necessarily hurting those people you're with. You mentioned that, and it's not necessarily a case. Sometimes you're blessing them, just like Betty was blessed by her husband, who finally was able to tell her that he loved her and how much she meant to him through the years. You have a question?
I think the two things that I think come to mind about people's excuses for this type of thing is obviously they want to alleviate their personal pain, like you've said, but they want to diminish any financial burden on their family that will be, left over by prolonged life support stuff and keeping them alive beyond what they should be kept alive. So, and there's other reasons too, but I think those are the two prominent reasons that most people give.
And that's the thing about hospice. In a hospice situation, it becomes a Medicare and a Medicaid situation, so that you're not picking up the bills. The family doesn't pick up the bills. Medicare and Medicaid is. So that's one thing I can say about hospice, if the person has 6 months or less to live. Now, one thing I would like to do when there is time, I don't know if we need to break, but when there is time, I would like to say a little bit about the legislation that is in place now and that will be coming up in the next year.
All right, well, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, you'll have about 7.5 minutes. And you're welcome to use all that time that you'd like to. Great. It's wonderful to have you here. You're a very good speaker, very knowledgeable. I think we're going to have you back if you'll come back with us sometime.
I'd love to be back, and thank you so much.
Iris Ing is her name, I-R-I-S, last name capital E-N-G. She is a pro-life advocate with the Family Leader. She spent years as a hospice nurse and a traveling nurse, and she's seen things that I imagine many of them were great blessings and many of them were sorrows. I guess it all comes together, doesn't it? God does not say our life's going to be without sorrow, but he will promise to be with us throughout everything. So that's good. All right, we're going to take our next break. When we come back, Iris is going to share with us a little bit about some legislation that she wants to make you aware of and to make sure that you know what is correct and what is biblical. We'll come back live here on The Truth. 99.3.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Good
afternoon. It is 10 minutes before the top of the hour here at the Truth Network 99.3 FM. Mac, I just got to say, if you're thinking, wow, Mac's changed, his voice sounds different. Well, Mac's gone. If you couldn't tell, he wasn't feeling all that great, and so he's headed off to get that well-needed rest as he continues to recover from the weekend. But hey, we got about 10 more minutes with you. Iris is our guest, Iris Ng. She's an advocate with a family leader. We've been talking about death with dignity. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, is here watching the chat. And you can send a text to us that we can get on the air probably in the next couple of minutes if you want to at 515-809-0993. Frank is here. You're like Cher, Frank. I always love that you've got just the one name.
That's right.
Frank. And Ryan is producing the show. So we've been talking about death with dignity. Why don't you guys catch me up?
Well, Iris was going to talk about new legislation or legislation that's already in place. I'm not sure which one.
It's what's going on with the legislation.
Okay.
Where we're at with it.
Where we're at right now in the state of Iowa.
Yes.
So hip us to that. What's going on?
Okay. I went to the subcommittee meeting that was held at the Capitol, and we were informed at that time that it is a dead issue for this year. So it will not happen in Iowa this year. However, Iowa City Democrat, I cannot remember what his name is. Maybe someone out there listening does know, and they can call in and tell us what his name is. But he has absolutely told us that it will be back for next year. So it will be, again, considered. So please, Iowan people who are against it like I am, please let your voice be heard. There was a minister that said that this is a very special issue and that our hands will not be free of the blood from those who commit suicide if that is the way that they go. So I would just highly, highly encourage you to be thinking about your involvement with this.
Iris, if I could ask you, how do we get involved if we want to, quote, make our voices known? How do we do that?
The group that I have just started, actually, I hadn't planned to start this. The way that I got involved with this was that I got a phone call from my great minister, who is Rob Ricksecker, Central Community Church here in Urbandale. And he said, Iris, I have a great opportunity for you. And I thought, okay. So he told me what it was. He said, are you free? Can you come with me? And I said, okay. So we went together. And I then learned what the legislation is. I then became involved with the group.
And that group is the Family Leader. So I assume that you can reach out to them. Is that thefamilyleader.org?
Yes, it's online, and it is the Family Leader. I think it's org, if I remember correctly. It's either org or com. I would say org.
I suspect they're the first that comes up if you Google the Family Leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry,
yeah.
All right, Iris, I was just interrupting you. Continue.
Okay.
So you went to this meeting, and this is where you heard about the bill?
Yes, this is where actually I'd heard about the bill. I hadn't really heard about it before. I didn't know it had ever been on the docket. Iowa would be like the third, fourth state if we pass it, which I pray we do not. For the people of Iowa, I pray that we do not do that. And I can tell you, I lived through a horrible chronic pain issue. For those who did not hear my story, if you're just tuning in now, I can tell you I'm very glad I lived. I was able to marry my husband. We had a beautiful private wedding. I started Eagle Angels, which helps veterans and soldiers. And my fur babies at home, my little doxies, keep me going. And I'm very, very pleased to be an advocate with this group. So please, if you're interested, look them up. I do not know their number. I wish I had that with me. In fact, I may have it with me in my purse.
Sure. Well, the easiest thing to do, probably folks aren't going to call, but as they get home or as they get, as they're about, if they haven't already checked out the Family Leader website, I'm sure that they can go there and get details. Bob, do you see it online?
Well, it's familyleader.com.
And
Fantastic. That'll get you right to the webpage.
Fantastic. Good folks over there, and I thank you for getting involved. Now, you said that you did or do struggle with chronic pain or chronic illness.
Initially, it was uncontrolled chronic pain. Now I have a stimulator in my back. And as most pain can be controlled, mine is essentially controlled. I do have times where I'm in a lot more pain than others, but I can honestly say it's never been as bad as it was in the beginning, ever. So please don't give up. That is my message to anyone out there suffering with chronic pain as well. And don't be thinking that suicide's the way to go. Suicide is a temporary fix, and it's a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
Right. It's a long-term solution to a temporary problem. Right.
So please be thinking about that. That's my plea to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Bob, have you experienced any of this? Has your mind been changed at all through this interview? That's what I want to know. Because I know when we started this broadcast, it seemed like there was maybe some, not on your part necessarily, mostly on the guys to your left. Frank was kind of fickle on this issue, so I'm going to ask him too. But Bob, has your opinion on this issue changed at all since listening to Iris?
Well, no. I mean, I'm never for, suicide. Never. And the thing is, I worked with and volunteered at hospice for 6 years. So I saw a lot of people that had their pain controlled during that time and were very happy and peaceful. And the families that are involved in hospice are very happy because they know that their loved one is not in pain and they can go see them and really have a proper send-off. And that's one thing that I witnessed all the time. And that's why I think, as you were saying, that you can control pain. And the thing is, I don't know about what was in the bill, like we mentioned last time. Yes. Because I don't know if they're dealing with mental health either. We're talking a lot about physical problems, but what about the mental?
At this point right now, it is strictly for the people that are at the end stages of life. However, as the doctor that was there stated, with government, you just cannot rely on government to keep it that way. It could easily become for the people like myself who are disabled, the elderly. I really hope it doesn't happen, but even forced suicide.
Right. It's kind of like opening a door to so many things.
Exactly.
It's just like the marijuana bill where people are afraid of where that may go. A very similar situation.
Frank, has your opinion changed at all listening to Iris?
Probably not. I don't know that I would go for a bill for assisted suicide, but I'm still kind of just about where I've always been on the issue.
Yeah, it's a complex issue. It's a complex issue. I think one of the things, if I could share my 2 cents, and that is that life has incredible value and meaning. And in a world, in a society that I've grown up in, where we've been told that we just are we're just mass, we're just matter, and we don't matter, things like this seem to be just fine. But you are uniquely made. You uniquely bear the image of God as a human being. You're not like the animals. You're not like the building. You're not like the matter. You're not like the stars. You're not like the sun. Carl Sagan was wrong. You're not just made of stardust. You're uniquely made in the image of God. And God loves you, and He has a wonderful plan for your life right now. If you're breathing and you're alive, God wants to use you, and He is using you. He's doing something in your life. So I encourage you today, as you drive home, as you're going to see your family, kiss them and hug them and love your family because your life is incredibly important. Thank you so much for listening to The Truth 99.3 FM. Coming up next, Hank Hanegraaff, the Bible Answer Man, is ready to take your questions.